The average social media user checks their phone for new notifications of beer about 85 times per day, not because they decided to, because a neurochemical loop inside their brain makes the check feel urgent even when nothing has happened. Now here is the part that should bother you. The system was designed this way, on purpose. The same reinforcement mechanism that keeps a person at a slot machine for 6 hours, the same neural circuit, is the one that makes you pick up your phone mid-conversation to see if anyone responded to something you posted 2 hours ago. And there is a growing number of people who have stepped out of this loop completely. They do not post, they do not share. Their profile exists, maybe, but it says nothing. These people are often told they are missing out, that they are invisible, that they are wasting a tool everyone else uses. But what is actually happening inside their brain, at the level of neurochemistry, is a very different story. This week we looked at why the brain prefers home and why it replays the same show instead of starting something new. Both of those are about how the nervous system manages stimulation and reward. Today the mechanism is the same category, reward circuitry, but the context is social. And the circuit is called variable ratio reinforcement. B.F. Skinner described it decades ago in the context of animal behavior. The principle is simple. If a reward comes at unpredictable intervals, not every time, not on a schedule, but sometimes, the behavior that triggers it becomes compulsive. The brain cannot predict when the reward will arrive, so it keeps pulling the lever every time, just in case. Social media platforms use this exact architecture. You post something. Sometimes it gets 3 likes, sometimes 30, sometimes none. The reward is unpredictable, and that unpredictability is precisely what makes the loop so difficult to exit. The brain assigns disproportionate salience to the behavior, checking, refreshing, posting again because the dopamine spike is tied to anticipation, not to the outcome itself. Now here is where it gets interesting from a neurochemistry perspective. Dharmeshi and colleagues at the Free University of Berlin found in 2013 that receiving positive social feedback online, likes, comments, shares, activates the nucleus accumbens in a way that closely mirrors other reward stimuli. The brain does not distinguish between a compliment in person and a like on a post at the level of the reward circuit. Both produce a dopamine response, both reinforce the behavior that led to them. But there is a catch. Dopamine does not just reward, it recalibrates. Every time the reward system fires, the baseline shifts slightly. What produced a satisfying response yesterday requires a slightly larger response today. This is tolerance. Not the dramatic tolerance of substance dependency, but the slow, quiet tolerance of a system that keeps raising the bar for what counts as enough. Over months and years of variable ratio reinforcement through social feedback, the dopamine baseline shifts, and the absence of feedback, a post with no likes, a story nobody watches, starts to register not as neutral but as loss. So what happens when someone steps out of this loop, when they stop posting entirely? The short answer is withdrawal. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind. The brain that has been running on social validation feedback suddenly loses a reliable input source. The nucleus accumbens gets quieter. The anticipation reward cycle has nothing to anticipate. And for a while, this feels like something is missing. Not something specific, just a low-grade sense of absence. Researchers studying FOMO, fear of missing out, found in 2016 that this feeling has a measurable neural correlate. The anterior insula, an area associated with social pain and interoceptive awareness, activates more strongly in people who perceive themselves as excluded from social activity. Not posting for a brain that has been trained on the loop does not feel like freedom. It feels like disappearing. But here is where the mechanism gets more nuanced. Because not everyone who stops posting is going through withdrawal. Some people never built the loop in the first place. Their reward system was never hooked into social validation at that frequency. For them, not posting is not a break from addiction. It is a baseline. Their dopamine circuit draws its reward from other sources: deep conversation, creative work, physical activity, internal reflection. They are not resisting the pull. There is no pull to resist. And this is where most conversations about social media go wrong. They treat everyone who does not post as the same category, but the neurochemistry says otherwise. There are at least 2 completely different populations sitting in the same behavioral bucket. One opted out after being in, the other was never really in to begin with. Same empty profile, same silence, different circuit underneath. And there is a third group that nobody talks about. The ones who do not post, not because they are above it, and not because they never needed it, but because posting requires being seen, and being seen requires vulnerability. And vulnerability for someone whose nervous system treats social evaluation as a threat is not a neutral act. It is an exposure. For this group, the silence is not autonomy. It is protection. The phone stays in the pocket not because the dopamine loop is irrelevant, but because the risk-reward calculation says the potential negative feedback is more expensive than the potential positive feedback is valuable. This is not superiority. This is not wisdom. This is the amygdala running a cost-benefit analysis and choosing invisibility as the safer option. Alright, the mechanism is mapped. Here is where it turns into something practical, because the question is not whether you should or should not post. That is someone else's question. The question is, which circuit is driving your silence? And there is a simple way to check. Ask yourself this: if you knew with absolute certainty that your next post would receive exactly the response you wanted, would you post it? If the answer is yes without hesitation, your silence is probably not autonomy. It is risk management. The reward matters to you. The uncertainty is what stops you. If the answer is a genuine shrug, if the response truly does not move the needle, your dopamine system is drawing from a different well, and your silence is a real preference, not a defense. The difference between those two answers is the difference between choosing quiet and hiding in it. So here is the concrete takeaway. Not posting on social media is not inherently healthy, and it is not inherently avoidant. It is a behavior. And behaviors do not have moral weight on their own. What matters is the mechanism underneath. A nervous system that has recalibrated its reward baseline away from social validation and toward depth. That is one landscape. A nervous system that avoids posting because visibility feels threatening. That is a completely different landscape. Same silence, different wiring. And the only person who can tell the difference is the one sitting with the phone in their pocket, deciding whether the silence is a choice or a wall. Next week, a topic that very few channels are willing to touch honestly. People who get tired of others quickly. Where introversion ends and something else begins. There is a line, and it is thinner than most people think.